clear this space. And so we're doing a little ceremony. I'm just asking us all to breathe into the here and now. And on the next breath, we'll let go of all energies that aren't here to serve us any longer. Big deep breath in. And then on the next breath, we're going to breathe into our ultimate potential and hold it in. A little bit more. One more breath into the here and now. And surrender. So, thanks for having me. And yeah, obviously I'm way into this plant and plants in general. And what I found is, I started growing. My first doorway to the plants was growing ganja out of necessity. When I met my partner, she invited me to Humboldt, and we started growing medicinal marijuana. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with growing it. I fell in love with feeling the plants, so to speak. And I found the more I loved my plants, the more they loved me back and came back. Like, they're definitely, out of all of the things I can do in my life, they're like an instant feedback loop. With a little caring and nourishing, there's just so much nourishment that I receive back. And so, I became interested in master plants, as in I crave good teachers. And good teachers are kind of one of the more rare things in life. They're around, but they're hard to get to. There's some on the internet, there's some here and there. And I found a few of them, but the cool thing about the plants is they're a guru that we can take care of and have in our lives on a regular basis. And people call this a master plant. And so I asked, why is this a master plant, and what does it have to teach me? And that's one of the driving questions of my life and working with plants. As in, especially as we're learning the subtle energies of the plants, is how can I listen and learn from the plants? And this plant in particular, the medicine is very strong and grounded in. So eating this plant helps us to learn more about it by sitting with it. And I found that once I imbibed the medicine, that I caught on to the vibration of the plant. And then I fell in love with it, then I started growing it. And there's something that happens with cactus growers. It's a universal phenomenon, whereas cactus growers stare at their plants. And it's like I found like this old painting from the 1800s of a old man in his office, bank office, surrounded by ledgers and the chaos of keeping track of numbers. And he's just standing there with his arms folded in a meditative pose. And there's a ray of light shining through the window into his office. And he's standing in that ray of light, and he's staring at 3 little potted cactus plants on his windowsill. And I'm in like cactus Facebook groups, and this is a common phenomenon. People like to sit and have coffee with their cactus, sit and smoke with their cactus, and stare at their cactus. Men who stare at cactus and whatnot.
Men who stare at cactus. That's a Facebook group.
And so, but yeah, I found that I would, like, when I got home from a trip, the first thing I'd want to do, I'd say, "How did my dogs?" Then I'd go sit with my cactus. And I'd started developing this relationship where I got addicted to loving and enjoying and sitting and meditating with my cactus. So it's like a dynamic meditation that worked for me really, really well. And then I had a knee transplant, so I went through a healing crisis where I had two different people's cadaver parts put in my knee. And the healing process was really long, and I was in my bed a long time. And I was having the cathartic experience of, like, what am I going to leave behind for my family? And I cracked some San Pedro seeds that were in my junk drawer for years, probably 5 or 6 years. And I had Shannon help me set up a little shelf with fluorescent lights on it, and I made a little grow just outside of my my bedroom door. And I cracked the seeds. You have to make like a really humid environment, and you spray them every day, and you wait for them to crack. And they're the littlest, tiniest seed. And it takes probably about 2 weeks for them to get their very first thorns. So I remember just every day waking up and waiting for them to start and grow. And it was my connection to the outside world that was like stuck in my room. And I got addicted to starting these little seeds. And I realized that from where I'm not able to walk, but from my armchair in my bedroom, I could get all this genetic information from all over the world. And I thought about Johnny Appleseed and how Johnny Appleseed went and planted all these gardens, and we're still eating some of his apples that were left behind after a couple hundred years or however long it's been since Johnny Appleseed is around. And I thought about the main form of San Pedro that you can buy at Walmart and Lowe's. It has been cloned since 1910 in the United States. So it's the predominant form of San Pedro that's gone all over the world from one cutting. And so I was like, I can make it. If I plant thousands of seeds, I'll find like one genetic anomaly that I could pass down for my children, like something really special. My goal is to find, and that could be a legacy that I left behind for my family. And then 20,000 seeds later, I have 2 giant greenhouses, and I'm just more in love with them than ever before. And so what I've learned about them is they are master plants. They have shed their leaves, and they've come inside, and they have become perfect channels. I wouldn't call it perfect, but coherent channels. And their form reflects their perfection. So as in, they are all of us are gatherers of sunlight and starlight, but they have become a pure reflection of the energy they gather. And so each one of them has a little bit of a different pattern, but very similar. And what you learn from all the different patterns and all the different ways is subtlety and variation. That they have one plant, and a botanist friend of mine was like, he's amazing. He's like, because they can go from 6 to 5 to 4, they can change their pattern on the same plant. And there's he feels like it's a little bit beyond genetic variation. There's some thought patterns going on or something going on that allows them to shift form in perfection. And what happens is they've also become coherent in their energy field. And my wife and I, we study our auric biofilm. Every person, every energetic being has an auric biofilm. A biofield that extends, and it's photonic light that extends outside of us. And we can read it with the tuning forks. We can feel when our energy when our auric field starts, you can hear it in the fork. You can hear it in the undertones and overtones of the fork. And the first time I heard this was years ago, playing with lasers and tuning forks. But I can hear when there's a laser shooting through the room, and when you're ding your tuning fork and you're listening to the tone and the laser hits your tuning fork, you can hear that. You can hear light hitting sound. The tuning forks are so sensitive that they pick up photonic energy. And then entrainment happens, right? Our field will entrain to a coherent field. Different pendulums, when they're swinging, they'll eventually start, if they're swinging different, they'll eventually swing together, and entrainment and coherence happens. And so these beings are very like clear, energetic beings, and they too have, an energetic, coherent field. And they entrain us with their field. So being around this medicine, I'm like sitting with it, meditating with it. And why does this feel good? I believe that by sitting with the medicine, I'm coming into coherency. I am being attuned. I am tuning to the energetic vibration, to the subtle energy field. And and I teach fire making. This is the exact same field that we create when we're creating a fire and twisting two forces together, and as above, so below. So the more coherent we become in our field, the more spaciousness we have. I like to think about sound healing when you slow the beats down. It's like 174 beats per second. You slow that down, it's a beat. You know what I mean? Even though it's going really fast and we hear it as a tone. And then what happens is if all of our beats and all of our tones are coherent on the same beat, then you have that space between the beats. And there's 174 spaces in 174 cycle tuning fork, right? And if all of our beats and everything becomes synced in the same beat, then we just created infinite space. And space is where spirit comes through. Space is where healing comes through, rest, rejuvenation, in a daily practice, not just when we're sleeping. That coherency can create space and healing inside of us. And so that's what I feel like these plants are here to teach, is coherency through form. They're not emitting sound, but they're emitting coherent frequency. And so the Peruvians believed in planting them by their doorstep. And I've researched, it's hard to find information on Wachuma because the lineage has actually been broken. But they planted on their doorstep for good luck. And I've read accounts of them being energetic protectors, and they'll chase away negative energy like a bulldog. But my experience of them is they don't chase anything. They're just like sitting in coherency, and negative energy or incoherent energy just goes around it. It's like, it's just so coherent that we're just gonna go around, because our incoherency doesn't match up to that frequency, and there's no gel there. There's nowhere for it to go. And so it's like, why chase when we can be energetic beings whole in ourselves? And I find in my life, the more I've studied and become more as this plant's meditated with it, like I don't have that much negative energy in my life. And I'm like, am I lucky? Am I just like a lucky being? And I really do believe the more coherent we are, the less attract negative energy is to us. And a negative energy for me is energy that believes it needs to take from you, or take from tomorrow, or take from yesterday for today, instead of realizing that it has its own energy source and it has its access to infinite channels, as well as these beings who figured it out. And so there's nothing for that negative energy to take. There's just nothing there for it to hold on to, so it chooses to go around. And in fact, NASA has studied cactus, and they have found that it literally bends EMF radiation around it.
Wow.
Like if you're between the cactus and the EMF source, you're gonna have less EMF frequencies. So there's like something to that. And I choose to, when I do ceremony in my house, I'm just like, well, one of the things I've learned about energies is there's like the masculine energy and feminine energy. Well, masculine energy, we've got to channel and bring and focus and use our chi to harness. Feminine energy is already there, and it's free. So how can I use the plants and the energies around me to make my job easier? And one of the things I do is I just have these around me, and then they're like, got my back, they're creating coherency. Like, things are just smoother and easier because we have help from our friends and we don't have to do it all ourselves. And it's just a fascinating plant to grow. So, yeah, you guys said you wanted to try the Wachuma microdose medicine. I made some medicine with this cactus. And like I said, they're all similar but different. And this one is Trichocereus scopulicola crossed with Trichocereus burgessii, which the scopulicolas are almost spineless and they're very feminine. And what I've learned about the energetics of these, the more spiny they are, the more masculine energy, the more less spiny, the more softer and feminine energy. And so these ones are scopulicola crossed with a very fiery Bolivian torch. So this is kind of have a good mix of both energies. And I believe these ones are the same. They're scopulicola.
So are you hybridizing them?
No, someone else did because
I see.
just got my very first San Pedro flowers after growing 14 years this year.
Wow.
So I'm making my very first crosses, and some of them had pollen, some of them didn't. So yeah, I have not had the opportunity to do that. It's a long project, and it's best for people down in like Southern California where they readily flower. I don't know what I did right this year to get so many flowers, but I have more flowers this year than I ever had before by far, and different ages of plants and different. And the ones I've been growing for 14 years didn't flower. So I'm like, I don't know what went right. And then, yeah, to this altar I made for your house. This has a little prickly pear in it. I like that because they have character and they look like people kind of. This one is Trichocereus red grandiflorus. This is going to have beautiful giant red flowers probably next year. This is a cross of these two together to create this plant. And this one readily flowers, and it'll have like, who knows, between orange, reddish, pink, magenta, beyond fuchsia flowers. And then this one is a mutated one of these, which causes it brings its like its perfections like that. I read a whole book on it, but the basic thing is I can explain is its code gets off one, and it causes it to bifurcate rather than create perfect perfection. And then they end up doing this whole fractal universe, which is what got me into this whole project because I love weird stuff.
It's almost like a brain, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the folds and
brain
stuff. I was
like-
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one eventually will grow into some big, trippy looking things. And, yeah, and then this one, I think it's gonna be beautiful, or it's gonna be really big.
Do they need? Do their roots need a lot of space, or?
They love as much space, they'll
Okay.
fill it up, yeah. But I saw the ones in your greenhouse, and I gave them water today. They probably need water every like few days
Oh, yeah.
at the little point.
It's been ignored.
But I have on my website a whole cactus care sheet, like a little
Okay.
thing about all the take care of them and whatnot. And then I brought these ones for the 4 people that were in. Helpers.
Aw,
Yes,
thank you.
oh
my gosh.
And like you said, try meditating with them.
These can go outside.
Yeah, they are already living
You think
outside,
about
and they,
peace?
and like I said on
Yeah.
my I don't know if I remember the
Okay.
stickers or not. But on my Galactic
Oh.
Cactus website, there's a cactus care sheet that
Thank
tells you all
you.
about how to
We can-
take care of them.
We can order. Can we order through this website too?
Yeah, you can order through that website or come by my
Oh.
greenhouse on Tuesdays.
Tuesdays?
And
Okay.
you can pick out stuff.
Cool.
So, anyways, that's for you to meditate with and take home. And then this one stays here, right? And then, yeah, there's so many different ways to enjoy the medicine. I feel bad I forgot the flower essence because I was going to start us off with the flower essence. But this is, I call washimi, which is like cactus sashimi. And what I did was I processed it. I didn't know if you guys wanted me to teach you how to process it or not.
Oh yeah.
But I brought this just in case. And the cool thing about cactus is every time I harvest it, I'll show you guys after we invite it. Every time I harvest it, I save the tip. I let this dry out for a week, and then I just put it in the ground in a dry pot. And about a month later, it'll have roots. So every time I make medicine, I double my crop, and then I sell this or give it away. A lot of times I just give them away. I'm trying. My goal is. I actually did a ayahuasca journey, and ayahuasca told me to grow San Pedro, San Pedro, tobacco, sage, and sweetgrass for ceremony to get to know them by growing them. And then to share ceremony from what I know about the plants specifically and what I've learned from growing them and what I've learned from sitting with them. And so this is part of that journey. And that was 5 years ago. So that seedling and I started 5.5 years ago from the seed.
Wow.
And so it's about a 7-year process. I'd wait till it got a little bigger for me to harvest it because I'd want to leave about this much to grow, harvest the middle, and plant the tip.
Wow.
And then what would happen is when you harvest that, you'd cut it, and then the top would dry, and then it would puff out 1 or 2 or 3 on the top, and then it would start puffing the bottom. And so it's kind of like topping a ganja plant. You do a whole bunch of arms. And I'm growing a whole greenhouse for medicine right now, and yeah, the more I harvest it, the more I'll end up, and I'll just like keep going regenerating.
It's abundance.
Yeah, it's all about abundance. The abundance.
Is there anything you can say about cactus and its actual phytochemical effects on the body?
Well, I don't know a whole lot about exact the chemistry behind the mescaline and all that.
Oh, well, so mescaline.
So, but I do know like the effects of there's mescaline in here, yes.
Yes.
So it's the same alkaloid as peyote, and you can find mescaline in many different plants. Even some optunias have them, prickly pears.
But just cactuses?
Just cactus, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of anywhere else to get it.
Yeah.
They all come from the cactus medicine. I know, especially in the raw form and all forms of it, it's very alkalizing, and it's very balancing. So, like women have been microdosing it for hormones and for menopausal changes, to balance out heat, all that kind of stuff. And then there are other alkaloids in it. I know like the Bergesii has an alkaloid that helps it digest better, so these ones seem stronger, but they botanical aid that helps it digest better, similar to like ayahuasca, the plant that helps the DMT digest from chacruna. And then I haven't researched the mescaline and what it does specifically, but it must do something with the serotonin, because it's definitely feels really good endorphin. So
Yeah.
but yeah, and then there is, in the raw form, there's a lot of oxalic acids in them, like the same thing that chard and spinach has in it. And if like you're like reactive to those things raw, you want to make sure you're careful. You wouldn't want to eat the cactus raw. Shannon has a very high oxalate response, so she eats the cactus raw. She gets like all flushed and gets like a little bit of allergic reaction. So cooking helps with that. But in this raw form, what I did was lemon juice and a little bit of tamari, and that cures it, just like kind of curing salmon. It cooks it a little bit. And then you would have to eat, probably, if you wanted to go on a journey. This cactus is really strong. Not a lot of them. You need about a foot. You need at least that much. This one, probably 3
Per
inches.
person?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one's stronger, and you would probably need like 3 inches to do a moderate journey. And then the medicine is different than, like, I don't know if you've ever done ayahuasca or mushrooms or LSD, but it's way more grounded and gentle, and it's more of a choose your own adventure. You can like really go deep into music, or you can lie down and do a meditation and travel with it that way. But it's not where ayahuasca, you're like fully enraptured and in your journey and being taken on a journey. The San Pedro is more of a choose your own adventure, and it's really good for sensitive people. And older people really like it because they don't want to get like an intense journey. It's more about being here. And increases your sensitivity and ability to work with the subtle energies. That's why I feel like it's probably perfect for what you guys are doing. Like even a little bit of it opens your heart and helps you be more sensitive without being high. And more of it, you'll be high, and you will be sensitive as well, and be able to kind of like you're more functional. Able to be in your body and experience here and now. So traditionally it's more of a daytime medicine. So you use it for hiking, use it for breath work, gardening, like being here in this planet, bringing heaven to earth instead of traveling somewhere else. And that being said, like if you eat 5-6 feet of it, you will travel. Be gone for a very long time. But you have to really work at it. You have to be like very intentional at it, and like make very strong brews and just like kind of warrior to get to those places, which most people never make it there. It's like, So I was going to pass this medicine around to you guys. There's little thorns here to eat, or cactus spines to eat it with. And I would say, probably 2 or 3 pieces would be a microdose. And like 15-20 pieces you'd probably start to, or maybe even less with this, when you feel the highness a little bit more. But yeah.
What are the benefits of like daily microdosing, or when we think of microdose, we think of maybe consuming small amounts over a longer period of time. Do you see it as possibly like replacing antidepressants in people, or helping people with PTSD or socializing issues?
Yeah, I only know anecdotal evidence from people that have been trying it themselves. There's not a lot of information out there about it, but so far, yeah, it's been helping with depression. It's been helping with like adult ADD, where your mind is all over the place. So people are saying they're able to focus, helping with hormonal things, looping thoughts, like thoughts that just keep going over and over again. That were, just it's been really helpful with that. And the way you microdose it, at least the way I was taught to do it, you want to do it for a month or two at a time. And a lot of people say that when they stop, they really notice the energetics. It's like all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm way more aware. I'm this, I am that. So that's an interesting phenomenon. I've noticed that they stopped and then they started really noticing the effects. And yeah, for me personally, I have not been able to make it a month because I've never been able to take anything for a month in a row yet. I'm not very good at taking my supplements. But yeah, definitely the focus and just heightened sensitivity to presence, just being able to, I noticed the wind on my skin and the like little tickles of like the little things that I wouldn't notice without it is something I've noticed. So yeah, it's still gathering that. We've only been doing I think I've only been doing the microdose thing for a couple of years now, so I've had a handful of people that have done it, but everyone's been really enjoying it.
So we're still on the frontier.
This is very much frontier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of research been done. Well, I don't know of anyone who's funded any research for this particular plan yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I started so many different types, is because energetically every type's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, all of this information that has been lost, and whereas ayahuasca has an intact lineage, they were able to go hide in the jungles and into the high Andes. There wasn't very much Wachuma culture that existed, that is still here, from the conquistador time. And any of the lineages that are left are very much the Catholicism in there, and whole bunches of that type of stuff. And I have not been able to find very much information about the different types and why they chose it. And basically the information is like, those plants that you guys have would not be able to live in the wild because they don't have spines. So somebody cultivated those for some reason, and we've lost that reason. And we're uncovering that slowly in a disjumbled, non-organized style. Cactus, all these cactus people are all hiding out doing their thing.
So all the San Pedro in the wild has spines? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, like this particular variety that you guys are looking at is called Trichocereus scopulicola. And it was wild collected in the 1950s, and there's been a few expeditions in the last 10 years to look for it again, and all they can find is goats. So,
goats!
I don't see how any wild plant that's succulent and juicy and full of so much, like, the rats love it, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's full of so much juice and goodness when you're hungry and you've overgrazed the whole land. I think anything without spines is not going to make it in the wild. So.
Do you think that they did exist without spines in the wild before?
Yeah, but it was most likely like left over from a shaman's garden or from like somebody who was cultivating it for some reason.
Okay.
And the Pacanoids, like where the longest history of use, they bred the spines out just because it's easier to work with. But not only were they breeding the spines out, but they probably were breeding for other energetic reasons too. Because that's what we do, like ganja. People want not only pretty purple buds, but they want the strongest, or they want the indica versus that, And I really believe that that was the same thing going on with these plants. That certain people were cultivating that one plant because it was really good for this reason in ceremony, is my suspicion. And then, yeah, it's still going on today in Peru. They've got, people cultivate it. They cultivate the stuff you get at the witches markets. Like, some of it is wild collected. But most of the stuff, for the people who know what they're doing, they're getting this one type of strain that's cultivated on purpose because it's really strong. Or most of the time, people are going for really strong. But I'm really interested in the ones that help you, like, relax, and the ones that help you dance, and the ones that are great for hiking in the mountains. It's like I found for me that there's different ones that I'll use for different reasons in ceremony. And I worked with a South African shaman. He started with Pakinoi in the ceremony, and then we switched to Peruvianos, and then it was like 6 in the morning, and we were only halfway through one prayer round that started at 9 p.m. And at 6 in the morning, we've only made it halfway through the ceremony. And so we drank, I grow this type called Bolivian torch, I call fire, that they had given. And so he passed that one out, and then that one just got everyone and I was really cool because I was able to observe the ceremony from an outside. I was in the ceremony, but I was also outside the ceremony studying it. And once we served the medicine I grew, it was like everyone became one being. Everyone was breathing the exact same breath, and everyone was had become one energetic being. And the prayers solidified into one prayer. And we finished the ceremony at 1 p.m. It was like the most harsh ceremony I've ever been a part of. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But yeah. Would you guys like to try it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I like just eat it, and I like to eat it with intention. Today I want to learn more of the subtle energy, and how to bring. I'm doing a bunch of writing after this. How to bring that subtle energy and desire for learning these subtle ways onto paper. So it's like tamari and honey. No, not tamari and honey. Tamari and lemon juice.
And this is one of the ways that you can microdose, but you can also microdose with powder.
Yeah, I have a bunch of powder. I'm working on getting it capsulized.
It can be
But I
capsulized.
use the powder. You can just put a little bit in cold water in the morning. Or you can capsulize it.
Or you can cook it in a tea.
Do you sell that?
I sell the powder.
Powder?
Okay, my intention also is to write and to bring us into coherence together as a community of medicine people. Thank you. So much gratitude. I'm so good like this. I love it fresh.
And fresh, yeah, it feels different than the powder. It does feel more lime and more.
This is what got me when you were at the Relaxpansion Fest and you were handing this out, and I had one small piece, and I completely went right into the intelligence of that plant. It just, with the music and the people around and the joy, oh my gosh, it was. And I said, this is it. This is a powerful, beautiful, heart-filled plant. Thank you, plant.
Yeah, and a little bit opens the heart, and you don't have to get high.
Homeopathically, the cactus family is about heart opening. And so for people who have contraction walls built around their heart, but it could even show up as like angina, which is
Mhm.
like heart spasms.
Mm-hmm.
Cactus grandiflorius is
That's what this one is.
oh is the which one the
This
spiky
one.
oh yeah, that is for heart opening. um Apuntia, the prickly pear, is really for really prickly people. I mean, that has the more of the kind of like the negative kind of qualities associated with it. And then anhelonium peyote is the like pure expansion into nature, losing your ego, like losing your sense of self identification and really becoming one, like an angel with the environment. So those are the three big ones. Selena Sirius is used
as well.
too. Night blooming, I think.
Yeah.
Cactus.
It's called Queen of the Night.
Queen of the Night. Yes, I have to double check what that one is for. I think it actually has more of some GI stuff associated with it, but
and that's an admixture with Wachuma. They'll use it in
yeah. So the polarity in the cactus family is on one side being contracted, held in with the thorns and a thick skin, like I'm in the desert, life is survival. You know, I've got to hold my emotions in, hold everything in. And then on the opposite polarity, it's about expansion, like connecting with everything around me, the sky, the universe, the plants, and nature. So that contraction and expansion and that pulse, that heartbeat of it, and in the circulatory system and the heart nature of it. It's really, I would say that coherence, that beat you're talking about, is like being in the coherence, the frequency of the heartbeat of the planet.
The expansion and the contraction.
And I find, you know, whereas other psychedelics, you're like out there and a part of everything, and you're just kind of like exposed and out there. And with this one, you're protected and contracted, so you have all of this contained. You got your spines, you get a little protection, but you're a part of everything. So it's like I've noticed the most like psychically sensitive people, or people who are sensitive all that like to go to festivals, are like, how do I get high and be a part of this festival experience without being overwhelmed? That they find that the cactus medicine helps them with that, because they can actually still enjoy those parts of things, be a part of the group, but they don't feel overwhelmed by everyone else's energy. And they can choose their own adventure rather than be like, oh, and then they're just like completely ragged after because it's just been everywhere.
And I think that's a problem with the psychoactive plants, is they get kind of promoted without the warning.
Yeah.
I keep seeing people who have become too disintegrated in their sense of self, or too spread out energetically, or kind of almost schizo.
Oh yeah.
Like
not grounded.
Yeah, not grounded.
And then it's kind of like, when's the next one? They're checking them off their list. Yeah, that's one of the downfalls of it. But
yeah. But so it's wisdom. It's wisdom that we need to walk that path of finding, because really those psychoactive plants are the most powerful for opening us up to our own light, our own intuition, our own, if we can kind of use it to go inward as opposed to just purely partying. It can really strengthen that inner voice.
Yeah, and I think this taught me is, it's like, the sacred's not just for ceremony, let's bring it into everyday life. I mean,
yeah.
That all the plants and animals really just want to be appreciated and loved and held in a sacred way, and all of that stuff.
Right.
So if I were to process this, so it's kind of almost a knife, I would cut all the spines off. And I'm just going to do the bottom part here to show you. And my favorite is to make a tea with it for ceremony, and then I have a tea in my fridge, and you can make the tea with it, and then like put it in an ice cube tray.
How long do you cook
freeze
it
the
for?
ice cubes. I can go over that in a second. But you can freeze the ice cubes with the tea, and then just put them like in a Ziploc bag, and then you have a microdose daily tea that you can put in your drink. And that's great, but then also the raw cactus has a more, I feel like, the raw cactus is better for the intestinal system. It's very coating, mucilagenic and all that, and gets it going, so it really helps. It's like a good laxative. But I like the tea as far as just, I know the raw form is harder on your kidneys. So it kind of just depends on your sensitivity.
Yes, the kidneys is a symptom in homeopathy as well, because it is very much about the water. So I treated a woman with kidney disease with Cactus grandiflorus, and she had tons of bloating, and all of her edema in her legs. She lost like 20 pounds from the homeopathic Cactus grandiflorus.
Wow.
Yeah, because she just
try
had
that.
so much water weight.
It's so cool because
Sure.
I'm so attracted to that plant, and Shulgin loved that plant. I don't know if you know Shulgin. He's like the grandfather of psychedelics to Tikal and Pikal. Anyways, he took mescaline and then just changed the molecules one by one, and then tried them on himself, like designer, mescaline, drugs, 2CB, and they also did that with ecstasy and acid. He was just a chemist and changed everything around. But he loved this plant. He was way into it. He said that it had DMT in it, but he might have messed up his lab results or something. Anyways, I'm like, there's all these plants and cactus that we don't know anything about, and I'm like, they must have something, a purpose, you know what I mean? And hearing you talk about the grandiflorus like that, I'm like, ooh, I want to learn more about that one. And then I'm really attracted to the cross, the scopulocola crossed with, so these two crossed together made that one.
It's incredible that they can do that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that you can cross them like that.
So I'm like, we just don't know what they're for. So I'd usually just do that with the whole thing. And then I cut this off. And then this is how I would do it to make tea for ceremony. Is I go through and I peel it. And the only thing I know about the peeling and why some people don't use it in their brews is that they would take all the pills and brew them for 24 hours to make a laxative tea or a purgative tea. So to induce purging in ceremony, which might have been handy over the weekend. Somebody was just like stuck and couldn't purge, and like we're stuck both ways. And we need a purgative.
But if you don't want the purgative, you take the skin off.
Yeah, and you know, I've been there's like as many ways to make Wachuma as there is shamans. I know like some practicing Wachuma shamans that I've met that are like they don't peel the skin off when they make it. But I find that the more energy and intention you put into anything, the better the results. So just like taking the time to really, you know, clean it and get rid of everything just feels good. I do it both ways. I've tried both ways, and I found I did the tea a couple of times so far with everything on there, and I had no purges happening. So, and purging is good. Sometimes we want to purge. Like sometimes we need to purge, and I find that if people really need to, this will help them purge, but it's not as purgative as peyote. And then what I do is And just all the medicine, I'd say probably 95% of the mescaline is in the green part on the outside edge. And so when I was making it for this, I cut a little bit more, but when I'm making it for ceremony, I just cut this green part off.
And when you're getting the powdered form, is it
It's just the green part.
just the green part? Okay.
And then you can take all of this and put it in a blender, or you can just cook it into a tea. And so yeah, I'll do like all the stronger stuff. I brew like half a foot for everybody to a foot. And I brew it down, and just from years of doing it, I get the dosage to about 4 ounces per serving. And so what I would do is I would have my big batch of all the stuff that I made, and then have my 5-gallon stainless steel pot, and then I just cook it in water for about 6 hours, 4 to 8 hours, depending on how it feels to me. But until there's like, I boil it until there's absolutely no more foamy stuff at the top of the, when you're boiling, you get the foam on top. I boil it till there's no more foam, and then I just let it sit overnight. So I take 4 days to make a brew. I cook it all day, let it sit overnight, and I keep adding water to it because I like lots of water in there when I'm brewing it. And then I just let it cool, and all the Wachuma falls to the bottom overnight. And then the next morning, I pour all that Wachuma water, which has the mescaline in it, just tea water, right? And I pour all that water into a separate container, and then I cook it again. And I do it 3 to 4 times, depending on my mood. Usually 3, sometimes I'll squeeze another 4th one out. So I've done that. The second day I boil it again, let it cool, pour all the mescaline water off the top into a separate container. And then the third day I do it again, boil it for 4 to 6 hours, let it cool, and then I pour all the mescaline water off the top, and then I've got a big batch of mescaline water. And then the next day I just simmer that water down, just at a low simmer, until the amount of water I want is left, and it depends on the size ceremony, but I'm usually thinking maximum 3 cups for each person. So I end up with like 12 ounces of water for each person, multiplied by 10 people. I want 120 ounces of water, which is almost a gallon. So that's kind of, that's the long process of how I like to make it. You can do it quicker if you want to eat this stuff with it. You can blend it up and cook it, and then kind of make like, you can cook it just once, and that'll get rid of the oxalate acids, but you still have like it's a thick brew. Most people don't like to drink slurpee.
Like
but
snot.
It works really well, and that one has a lot more of the laxative effect, and like it's the whole plant, so the whole plant is getting into rather than just the tea water. I find that it's really good. People like to juice it and make smoothies with it and eat that in the morning as a smoothie. I would recommend having a lot of lemon juice in there because that would help with the oxalates. That's a whole nother world. It's like energetically, I feel like when you cook it, it rounds the molecule, it makes it a little easier. The Wachuma smoothie is just like, wake you up, like, whoa, what are we gonna do today? And it's like, so excited! We get to poop out, woohoo! I feel light as a hummingbird. It's like that energy, it's like very like, ah. And when you cook it, it's more like, yeah, like a little bit. That's what I've noticed the differences in those two. And yeah, like if you're a birding man and it's been 4 days since you pooped, a Wachuma smoothie is gonna save your life. So yeah, that's the differences between that. I don't know if you guys want to try a piece of it just straight raw. And the first time I got, in ceremony, my friend had to sit me down at a festival and just feed me. And he fed me like 1.5 foot of the raw cactus until I was like, oh, I get it. And life has been different ever since then. I've been totally cactus head. Because for me, like psychedelics, I'm hard-headed, they call it, or so. I find that I have to eat a lot of psychedelics. So, like, I would get a lot of the negative effects of the psychedelics. And then when I found this medicine, I was like, I don't know. It just made sense for me. I was like, I don't need any of those other medicines. This is way easier on my system.
So what does
And then if I want other medicines, I eat this first, and then I don't need as much other medicine.
I've heard people say that like a Wachuma ceremony is like hours and hours and hours. What does that look like? So you're consuming like 3 cups.
Well, so the medicine lasts 12 hours. So if you start at 6 o'clock at night, you're not gonna likely be able to sleep until 6 in the morning. So that's why it's a long-lasting ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I do the ceremonies in like so many different ways. And what I really believe in is making ceremony for intention. So the last ceremony we did, and it's been our goal for a long time, but just to create a space where we can do daytime ceremony really easily. I have like a nice garden, but it's hot there during the day, so I usually end up doing nighttime ceremonies there. But this last ceremony we did day out of time, and our intention was to start like at noon or 10 in the morning, and but it was like lined up on like the day before the hottest day of the year. It was like last Monday on the day out of time on the 25th. And so yeah, we started drinking at 3, and the ceremony we finished at midnight, and then we integrated around the fire till about 2 or 3 in the morning, and everybody went to bed. But that was like, we wanted to go to bed after 12 hours, you know. So that ceremony we started, with intention, and then we did an elemental ceremony where we all went and built cactus altars. So everybody had a cactus altar to sit with, and I took them in the gardens. It was like the south, fire time, work time, plant time. Took them in the garden and taught them about all the different plants and stuff going on in there. The garden. Have you been to the garden yet?
No.
Oh my gosh, the garden's just like...
That can be our next
We should
field
go
trip.
there.
The garden's like mind-blowing right now. The flowers aren't popping off like they were, but it's really beautiful. And so yeah, the idea is like getting people to slow down enough to actually hang with the plants in the garden. So we do that, and then after that we did flower plant baths. And then we did massage and tuning.
That sounds
People would
great.
get their plant bath, and then they come to the massage table, and we had 2 people working on them, and we did all that. And then we did playtime, just relaxation time, and then we did a dance party, and then we did a feast.
It's amazing.
And then we went and built a sacred fire. I've been teaching sacred fire for 27 years, and we start a fire with hand drill with creation story. It's a creation story we get to do, whereas there's so many creation stories that we get to read about and hear about. This is a creation story that we get to do, taking the masculine energy of the universe, the female energy of the universe, twisting that together to create a spark of life, putting that spark in the womb of creation, and blowing it to flame, and then having a sacred fire.
Wow.
And so we did that, and then we did prayer rounds, and then by that time Shannon was tired, so we closed we closed the ceremony at midnight, and then integrated around the fire with song and dance and giggling. So that was that ceremony. But then I just follow the 7 directions when I make it any ceremony. A lot of the times we're starting about 7 or 8 at night, and then we sit with the sacred fire, and with usually 3 to 4 different rounds. and it's all about, like, this medicine is about listening. So there's something it really does bring people into a coherent field, and with the magic of the fire and the circle, what happens is one person will pray and that person will say the prayer for this person over here, right? Like, whoa, they just said my prayer, then this person will say the prayer for over here, and then the prayer technology just keeps building to where, yeah, it's just the craziest.
You just said
thing.
prayer technology. I love that.
Yeah, I teach prayer technology. So the idea is that, you know, we all use ceremony and prayer and all that. And why? Well, when I was growing up, my mom was a Mary Kay lady, and she taught me about positive affirmations and goal setting. And so for me, ceremony is the most powerful way I know of to set goals and affirmations. As in, when we're in ceremony and we're asked to think about an intention and pray about it, and we do it out loud in front of our peers, we're going to get really clear with what that intention is, because our friends and family are going to hear it. So that is going to bring it already to the next level of what is my intention, how can I empower it. And then when 8 people hear what that intention is, then their energy can focus and amplify it. They become antennas for what that is. The circle goes around and builds, and with the Wachuma bringing everyone together, it creates a coherent field that actually is an affirmation or a goal setting that we are more able to follow through it and complete, because we have that technology of embodying this into our bodies through ceremony, through our family and community. That just like took an affirmation and our goal and amplified it by as many people that are here. And so it's a technology. It's like
I have lived that technology in Ashland, because I can see every time you talk about something and it brings that energy into that antenna and amplification. And if it's negativity, it gets amplified.
Wow.
If it's positivity, it gets amplified. And it bounces around in this canyon or in this area. And it's so amazing, that magic. So I'm so grateful to hear you put words to something I've just been kind of silently witnessing in effect, and to then bring that into intention. So I would love, since we were in a really powerful group here, once we're closing, if I can turn this off and we can all speak our prayer and intention, because this is a powerful moment for us.
And you know, and to me it's like, sure, we can pray to spirit or pray to whatever we believe in and give that energy our intention so it can do its work. But the real power is us. The real power is this. This is like tactile, substance power, you know? And it's empowering, it's in our control. And it's not we're not letting giving into some other being's hand and they're responsible for it. No, we are responsible for this. And we are sovereign beings in all ways. And we do in Ashland have a gift that there's so many more like us here. And it's quite a golden opportunity. And then to include our gurus with us and to be like, hey, this is our intention, help us hold this space. Like, they're like totally want jobs to do. And the thing about ceremony for them, when they're brought into ceremony, I had this vision, and my goal is to build a 44-foot geodesic dome ceremonial greenhouse, and to have the beds to the 4 directions with all the different medicinal plants. And when I was envisioning this vision, I was around the sacred fire, holding a sacred fire for Beloved Festival. and we were all around that fire, and everyone was dancing and singing. And the plants clearly showed me their shadows on the wall of the greenhouse of the sacred fire, and their shadows were dancing. And they were like, this is what we want to do. We want to dance with you. We want to play with you. We want to sing with you. And that when we bring them into ceremony and invite them, that is like their time to be able to move and be free like us. Something we take for granted, you know. They're like, please, we want to play.
Dancing through us.
Dance through us.
When you were talking
Stars.
earlier about the prayer circle and how people would say the persons like who were coming after them would say, hey, if they said my prayer,
Exactly.
it gave me this visual of like a reciprocating roof, how you're stacking one beam on top of the next and on top of the next so that it then supports the whole roof. I just got that visual when you were talking about it and how like supportive that is.
And a lot of times the prayers are said the ones you couldn't say. You were like, oh, that was my prayer, but I didn't even know that was my prayer, but I needed that more than anything. And that was the gem of the ceremony. It was like that little thing someone else said. Sometimes that's like... And in the mornings, the Wachuma flowers, they're just like, oh my gosh. I've been studying them this year. They're just like,
What do they look like? The
oh my
Wachuma flowers?
gosh, oh my gosh. I had this one the other day that I was just like, it was so inspiring, and I cut it with Tulsi. It was inspiraling.
Inspiring. Oh, wow.
Ooh.
I'm just going to show it on mine. Wow. That kind of fractal quality to them.
Interesting, because their flower, they don't, the cactus doesn't have leaves, but their flowers look more like leaves than like flower petals.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
And they do get
It's their connection
They're
to their
called
lots of leaves.
vestigial leaves.
Uh-huh.
Especially like the smaller ones, they'll pop out little tiny, like these little leaves they call vestigial leaves. And
That's cool.
I have a primitive cactus that I use for grafting, and it still has leaves. So primitive cactus still have leaves,
Wow.
and they grew to lose their leaves and bring them inside. And I think the spines are technically what their leaves are now. And so yeah, I was bringing this. I use this for teaching fire making, but if you imagine, you know, their energy field being a perfect torus, but then each spine is another torus. So it creates a three-dimension, or a flower of life, not nearly impenetrable in its coherency. So, yeah, it's like, oh, you always want to see Buddha Guru? He's my favorite. Let's see. Buddha Guru. He's been teaching me.
That's funny. So you grew him out of the broken Buddha head.
I love the sunglasses.
Does he, I mean, are you also coming into connection with other plants and receiving their wisdom and intelligence as well as you're using this as a teacher to...
So it's kind of like, for us to be able to communicate right now, we need the same language. And so what I've learned from the Wachuma is the language of the plants and the language of listening, right? And the, oh my gosh, you can see how big this one is. I've been able, it's enabled me to be better at almost everything I do, as far as in I'm listening better, I'm listening to what is, my body work has changed like infinitely. I'd say this plant brought me to doing body work, and then it enabled my body work to amplify. And so it's like a great synergizer. Like I know for imbibing medicines, if I imbibe the Wachuma first, then everything else I can feel better. And so for subtly, learning how to listen to this plant, I've been learning how to listen to everything.
To rocks, to river streams, to it all.
Yeah, and to the body specifically. In my body work, I look at, I really listen to people's intentions and why they're there and what's going on with their body. But then the most important thing for me is to listen to their body. And oftentimes the body is craving to be listened to so deeply that that's almost enough just to hear it. Gives it the validation and support that it needed to release what was going on for it. And so I find that, all the plants are eager to teach us things. And all the plants are eager to be listened to. And that's one of the things I've learned about life. Everything in this universe craves adoration. So if we can come from that heart that's like, whoa, hi, whoa, what do you have to teach me? That is the energy the universe craves, right? And that we as beings, as people, that's the most important gift we can give, is just adorations and presence, and actually to hear somebody. And to hear somebody beyond their words, to hear their heart, and to acknowledge their selves in that way is the exact same thing that the plants and animals are seeking as well. And it's just a fun way to go through the universe. So I'm studying sweetgrass right now. And I like studying things from growing, so I've been trying to grow sweetgrass for like 4 years, and every time I've grown it out, it's just grass. We're getting the seeds. Did give me sweetgrass seeds, but I finally got it to go this year. And whoa, it's like talking to me in these like really deep. It's like the smell, but the smell behind the smell that's uplifting me in this way. And
the smell's part of the teaching. I have sweetgrass growing as well, and I'm braiding it into the, braiding them from the earth, before I cut them. And they're just showing me how they want to move, like the different grasses and how they want to be braided together. Each little clump speaks, and the smell filters into that. It does. There's something with that like is part of the teaching, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's this interesting smell because it's not right here for me.
Yeah.
It's
like around.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
I don't know how to explain it either, but it's a cool thing.
So trippy. I love it.
It's so beautiful. It's intoxicating being in that space with the sweetgrass.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. And then the other one I'm working with is Tulsi.
Tulsi's great too.
Tulsi's come into my life big time because of Melanie.
Melanie, yeah.
It's so magical.
I like to grow it. I really like sitting at the sacred fire in ceremony and just reaching behind me and grabbing, because I built a flower bed for my fire pit. So instead of having rocks around my fire pit, I just have a giant flower bed, and then we all sit in really close to the fire. And the flower bed has jasmine tobacco, which is just amazing plant. And I have like purple perfume tobacco and other types. I even have this 800-year-old tobacco that was found in a cave, carbon dated to 800 years, and then they got the seeds going. And I have seeds from those plants that I started. And and then catnip and motherwort and Tulsi and lamb's quarters and lemon balm. All these have just like grown up themselves. Like the only thing I planted was jasmine, I believe.
That's the beautiful thing with this area too, is all those medicinal plants pop up for you.
Yeah.
They show up, or somebody brings it to you, because we're in plant coherence, plant medicine here. So somebody will bring you, like even the daisy. The daisy is a powerful medicine. It's in the arnica family, and I needed the daisy during COVID. But my yard is full. People planted a bunch of daisies in my yard, and so it seems like a common flower. Maybe you don't want to speak to it. You think
Yeah.
it's just there and it's decorative, but it all serves. Dandelion, you know, we all know. I mean, there's just everything around us is medicinal, energetically or nutritionally. So I just want to say though, like, my response to just this and having this, I feel like more fluid. And so I was feeling kind of crackly in the back of my head last night, just feeling some tension from the smoke and some stress. And it was feeling crackly, and that crackliness has gone. It's like smoothed the kind of the joint fluid feels smoothed out. I feel really emotionally open. I feel like I'm starting to sweat a little bit, so it's like released some of the water. I don't know if you guys have anything?
I would say all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feeling
Yeah.
a little kind of stiff and like crunchy, and it's just like, and I did get there was a bit of euphoria too. There was a little bit of euphoria, and then that things look, you know, a little brighter. Things like your senses kind of are a little sharper, and a little emotional.
A little emotional, just the release of the water. Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been such a gift. And I'm so grateful that the universe has brought you to this plant and brought you here to us to share its beauty and be its voice, its representative, its body that can dance with us. And this medicine is needed now more than ever. And I'm excited to share it and learn about it and be on the frontier with it as well. So I'm going to close up the recording.